I usually always understood that life is a magical thing, you can expect anything, but my wife having an affair with her colleague was the last thing I thought of. But the issue is not even here, but how and under what circumstances I found myself in such a situation. Enjoy watching. I can't understand what's happening in front of me. My wife of 7 years, Johnny, is having an intimate contact with Jim on the dining car table. I scanned around, half expecting to find a waiter, but strangely, none. At that moment, all the love I had for my wife collapsed. This should have been a pleasant outing to reconnect us, and I was shocked when she mentioned Jim. She claimed he was a colleague of our two friends, but I have never liked him, and I can't understand why he insists on joining us, until now realizing that our marriage has ended. I know I need to provide evidence for the upcoming divorce, and seeing them engage in intimate activities has aroused some contradictory emotions in me. I refuse to tolerate this blatant disrespect. I took out my mobile phone and started recording their affair. I am not interested in witnessing or hearing their explanation, feeling that they have been on that table for an eternity. I was shocked by Jim's rough treatment of her, although she seemed to enjoy it. Maybe I should have been more tough, but that is not my nature. Finally, they stopped the action. Johnny tidied up her clothes, and then handed Jim her underwear. I believe it was those enticing underwear that she bought for me. He grinned, held them to his face, and enjoyed her scent. "We need to be careful," she whispered as they sat back down. "If George finds out our secret, he will be very angry," she whispered. "Oh, forget that coward," Jim sneered. "We've been dating for a year, and he hasn't found out yet." A year, I thought silently. I know the relationship between Johnny and me has always been tense, considering my busy work schedule, but it is essential for us to maintain our lifestyle. Although Johnny also works, most of her income is used for her personal desires, such as clothes, accessories, hair salons, etc. The plan was to take a few days off, travel by train, and spend quality time together. So Jim continued to say, "Will you let him bear the consequences when you go back to him? That would be quite evil, wouldn't it?" She pondered. "Did you follow the advice on contraception?" he asked. Connie nodded. "Yes," she admitted. "I stopped taking it so you could get me pregnant. I told Georgia that this week is my period, so you wouldn't expect any intimate behavior." They all laughed. "Why are you still with him?" Jim asked. "You obviously don't love him if you do that." "It's not that I don't love him," she clarified. "I like him, but that strong love is gone. Moreover, he brings a considerable salary. You know I can't survive on my income alone. So it's about money," he concluded. She nodded. "More or less," she admitted. "I could never afford the accommodation he arranged for this trip." "You can't either." "Well, do you want to meet again?" he asked. "I'm not sure, maybe later tonight, after he falls asleep," she replied. George had seen enough, heard enough, and decided to stop recording. He returned to the sleeper car where he and Johnny lived, thinking about his next step. Divorce was inevitable, but there must be more consequences. She and her despicable boyfriend both needed to face the consequences. George took out his mobile phone, searched his contacts, and found his lawyer's phone number. Fred Jurgens. When the call connected, he answered. "Fred, this is George. I need you to start preparing the divorce papers for me. I also want to enforce the prenuptial agreement." "Divorce?" Fred asked in surprise. "Are you sure?" "I have never been so sure in my life," George said firmly. "What's the reason?" Fred asked. "Adultery," George said. "I have a video that I can send you as evidence." "Of course, send it over," Fred replied. "I have the prenuptial agreement right here, so it shouldn't take too long to set up." "When would you like her to be served?" "The sooner, the better," George answered. "We'll be back in Springfield in a few days. Perhaps you can have her served at the train station. I also need information on her boyfriend, Jim Simpson. He works with her. I'll assign our investigator to handle it." Fred assured me he would send the video, I would review it, and please don't do anything foolish, understand? "Yes," George laughed. You know me. Yes, I do, Fred laughed. That's why I'm saying don't do anything foolish. After the call ended, George sent the video to Fred and spent some time considering his next move. I retrieved my tablet and connected it to my phone. After transferring the video to the tablet, I activated the phone's hotspot and used it to connect the tablet to our home network via a virtual private network, VPN. I had set up the VPN long ago to safely access my files from anywhere in the world. At first, I logged into our banking system and made the routine operations, closing joint accounts, redistributing funds, etc. I wanted to eliminate any potential risks, even with the existence of the prenuptial agreement. Another thought crossed my mind. Johnny often used the home computer to send her personal emails. Fortunately, she was not particularly knowledgeable about security issues. So, I easily accessed her webmail account with just a few clicks. I first transferred the video to the tablet, then to the home computer. With her webmail client open, I composed an email, trying to imitate her writing style, using some cliched subject line of her tone. I wrote, "Look at my fun train trip." In the body of the email, I added, "See what I did while my unsuspecting husband was sleeping." Then I attached the video to the email and sent it to everyone on her contact list. That's right. Friends, family, colleagues, you name it. After reviewing for a while, I decided to go for it, clicked send. Screw it, I thought. At the last moment, I opened our cabin door and got the attention of a conductor. I motioned for him to come over. And when he looked up at me, "Is everything okay, sir?" he asked. "Well, my wife wants to move to another cabin," I explained. "Can you tell me which cabin Jim Simpson is in?" The conductor briefly checked his tablet, then replied, "Do you want your wife's things moved to that cabin?" He asked. "Are you sure that's economy class? Not as comfortable as this one?" "That's life," I replied. He nodded in understanding. "I see," he said. "Of course, I'll help pack her things." We acted quickly, without much attention to how neatly her clothes were packed. After it was done, I helped the conductor to transport her things to his cabin, which was much smaller than ours. I laughed as I casually threw her things onto his modest bunk bed. Let her deal with it, I thought. "I need to create a new keycard for her," he mentioned, taking out a white card from his pocket and swiping it through the magnetic reader, connecting to his tablet. After he finished, he looked at me. "Do you know where she is?" he asked. I nodded. "I know where she was the last time I saw her," I replied. "Lead the way," he said. We walked through the train, into the dining car. Johnny and Jim were still exchanging affectionate glances. As we approached them, I sat down at the table, and the conductor got Johnny's attention. "Yes," she asked, looking annoyed, he mentioned. "I need to provide you with your new keycard, and add it, as well as collect the old one." She looked taken aback. "What do you mean?" she inquired. "It seems there was a mix-up in Cabmissimus. So I have to give you your new key," he calmly explained. I thought to myself, this guy remains composed no matter what. Annoyed, Johnny took out her keycard and handed it to the conductor. He grinned and handed her the replacement card. "Thank you, have a pleasant trip," he said. Turning around, Johnny shot me an angry look. "What on earth are you doing?" she demanded. "I'm just facilitating things for you and Jim to have some fun," I replied. Her eyes widened. "You and Jim have some fun," I replied. Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" she asked. "You think I don't know what's going on between you two?" I questioned. Johnny started to look uneasy, looking at Jim, who looked a bit uneasy as well. He checked her keycard, noticed the cabin number. "Wait a minute," he exclaimed. "That's the key to my cabin." I nodded. I thought. "So you two won't have to engage in intimate activities on the dining table." I commented, "I understand it might be a bit crowded. But that's how things are." "By the way, did Johnny mention the prenup?" "What are you talking about?" Jim inquired. "Well, if you're planning to have an affair with someone's spouse, it might be best to know about her first." "Right." I suggested. "Look, it's all fun," he claimed. "We didn't mean anything by it." Johnny interjected. "That's right, George," she said. "All of this was just for fun. It has no impact on our marriage." "Really?" I inquired. Taking out my tablet, I fast-forwarded the video to the part where they were talking, then pressed play. "Listen to this," I said. "I have a certain fondness for him. But the strong love I once felt is no longer there. Plus he brings in a considerable income. You know, I can't maintain my lifestyle with just my own earnings." Johnny explained in the video. "So if you're staying for the money," Jim commented in the video. She nodded affirmatively. I paused the video, facing her. "So I'm just a source of income to you," I said. "Darling," she began, but I interrupted her. "You have no right to call me darling, honey, or anything else," I stated. "I think you shouldn't even use my name. A more appropriate way to address me would be Mr. Duvalier. Since you don't consider yourself married to me, I will continue to take these away." I continued, removing her wedding ring and engagement ring. "I will also take this," I added, grabbing her handbag, removing her house key from the large keyring she had kept. I took off my wedding ring and placed it in front of Jim. "You can have this. I no longer need it." Turning to Jim, I explained. "According to the prenup, Jim, in the case of infidelity, the guilty party, in this example is Johnny, gets nothing. She can keep her clothes and jewelry, but that's it. I doubt she will be able to continue paying for the car loan. Fortunately, I have the documents written under her name, so her credit will be affected." "You son of a bitch," he said, trying to stand up. I picked up a fork, threateningly walking towards his hand, prompting him to sit back down. "Do not provoke me, jerk," I warned. "Please don't," Johnny pleaded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Gil, Mr. Duvalier, please reconsider. I have learned my lesson. You can't forgive me, can we move on?" "No, you unfortunate woman," I said. "Rewind the video to the part where they discuss Johnny's infidelity. Play it for both of them," I hissed at Johnny. "You two have been cheating on me for a year. You plan to get pregnant by Jim and pass off the child as mine. Now, I despise you, I wish I had never met you." Turning to Jim, I added, "You want this lying, cheating woman. You got her, good luck with that. I doubt she'll get much support from her family and friends." "What do you mean?" Joanne asked, dragging her feet. "Check your email," I instructed. She grabbed her phone and opened her email app. Her eyes widened. "What have you done?" she exclaimed. "I just shared your memories with you," I replied. "Since you seem to enjoy it so much, I thought you would like to share it with others." "You monster," she hissed. "My parents have disowned me. My sister never wants to see me again. My friends now think I'm a little slut. They will all hate me. Should they be blamed?" I calmly asked. "I dedicated the golden 7 years of my life to you. Loving only you. Never considering another woman. I worked hard for you. Bought the luxurious house you insisted on. And bought you that new BMW. When you spent money on yourself. Or when you claimed to be going out with the girls. I never complained. What did I get in return? You shattered my heart. Betrayed me, destroyed our marriage. I don't blame them at all. Please give me another chance, she pleaded. I shook my head. No, I replied. You could have ended this at any time. But you chose not to. This is the end of the road. You made your bed. Now lie in it. I hope you think it was all worth it. I expect you to be delivered when we arrive in Springfield. Just sign the papers, and it's over. Then you and Jim can do as you please. I don't care. George, Mr. Duvalier, she said. Is there any way I can make it up to this? I will do anything. I stood up, thought for a moment, then replied. Yes, there is one thing, actually two things. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation. Eat shit and die. She broke down, crying. I turned and walked away. Suppressing my own tears, I returned to my cabin. Closed the door, locked it, and then my phone rang. It was her parents. Apparently they had seen the video I sent them. George, what exactly happened? Johnny's father Cliff asked. Hi Cliff, I said. I caught your daughter having sex with another man. I recorded it and sent it to you. I am drafting divorce papers. Based on the prenuptial agreement. I expect her to be delivered when the train arrives in Springfield. I wanted you to know why we are getting divorced. There is no way you can ignore this. He asked. I mean, divorce is too extreme. No, Cliff, I replied. If you listen to what your daughter and her lover said, you will understand I can't. I can't get over her infidelity. I am nothing to her. She even wanted me to raise another man's child. That foolish girl, he commented. I heard you abandoned her, I mentioned. No, he replied. I asked her to give me a reason not to abandon her. I am still waiting. Well, anyway. I am grateful you had us sign that prenuptial agreement. I commented. This may not be how you imagined things would turn out. But you have done me a great favor. I am sorry, George, he expressed. You're right. I have loved you like a son I never had. I also have great respect for you. I replied, is there anything we can do, he asked. Actually, there is, I replied. Do you still have the spare key I gave you? Yes, we do, he confirmed. Would you mind finding a truck to collect her things from the house? I asked. I won't be staying in town for a few more days. I don't want her in the house. I will reimburse you for the truck expenses. Of course, we can do that, he agreed. What about her car? You can take that too. But I'm not sure how long she can keep it. I said, maybe you can help her budget. Or she can switch to a more affordable car. Okay, he said. George, I am really sorry about all this. It's not your fault, I assured him. We exchanged goodbyes and ended the call. As soon as I put the phone in my pocket, it rang. It was Johnny's cousin Lisa. I answered the phone, put it in my pocket. It was Johnny's cousin Lisa. I answered the phone. What do you want, Lisa? I asked. So you finally found out about Johnny, she asked. Yes, I confirmed. I guess you're going to divorce that bad woman. She asked. Of course, I replied. I already have some plans in the works. Good, she said. You know I've always been attracted to you. In fact, I also found Lisa very attractive. However, because she is my wife's cousin, she is strictly impossible. Well, you are also very attractive, I replied. Lisa has a habit of wearing short skirts and tiny ripped shorts around me. Always managing to arouse excitement. Shorts always manage to arouse excitement around me. So you noticed, she commented. Of course, I assured her. Now that you and your spouse are separated, do you think we can be together, she asked. Maybe after the divorce is finally finalized, I suggested. Okay, I understand, she said. I have been waiting for you for 7 years. So waiting a few more months won't hurt. Then I will fully satisfy your wishes. I will see you when you come back. The call ended, exciting me. Maybe there will finally be something positive coming out of it. The next few days passed quickly for me. Mainly busy with phone calls. I rarely left my cabin to avoid encountering these two cheats. Fred confirmed my suspicions, telling me Jim Simpson is a notorious playboy, divorced twice for infidelity, and allegations of domestic violence from his last wife. It made sense. Johnny would be attracted to someone like him. Although I still hoped she would realize the truth and leave him in time. Just before arriving in Springfield, Johnny knocked on my door. "Who's there?" I asked from behind the closed door. "It's me, Johnny," she replied. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want my husband back," she cried. "That's terrible, Johnny," I retorted. "I want a loyal and faithful wife who loves me. But I didn't get it, did I?" "Please, George, Mr. Duvalier, I made a mistake," she pleaded. "You are far beyond a mistake," I said sternly. "Leave, or I'll call security." "You belong in economy class," she pleaded. "Can't we talk?" "No," I declared. "Go away, I never want to see you again." As she walked away, I heard her sobbing. A part of me felt sorry for her. But I didn't care. She brought all this upon herself with her lies, deception, and disrespect. I got off the train, scanning around to find Johnny and Jim. I saw them a few cars away, getting off the train, with expressions that suggested dissatisfaction. Bad luck, I thought silently. While observing, a man approached Johnny and handed her a manila envelope. She opened it and started crying. I sneered and walked away. Driving home, I noticed Johnny's absence and all her belongings, including some furniture from our early marriage, were all gone after I packed up. I systematically removed all photos of her from the house. I didn't want any reminders of an unfaithful woman. A few hours later, I heard a knock on the door. Through the window, I saw Lisa. She looked very pretty in shorts. I opened the door and invited her in. She was holding a rather large plate, exuding the aroma of lasagna. She walked in as if she owned the place, putting the plate on the kitchen counter. As she turned back to me, I took her in. She was wearing a crop top, barely reaching below her chest, revealing the outline of her nipples under the fabric. Her shorts were even shorter than I remembered, leaving very little material between her legs. I wanted to make sure. "You have something delicious to eat," she mentioned. "I don't want you to be hungry." "Thank you, Lisa," I replied. "I am really grateful." Her eyes twinkled as she smiled while talking. "Would you like to have dinner with me?" "I would love to," she replied. "You go freshen up. I know where everything is." "I would love to," she replied. "You go freshen up, I know where everything is." After a quick shower, I came back to find the table set. Lisa had poured a glass of wine for each of us. As I pulled out a chair for her, I couldn't help but admire her well-shaped thighs. She took my plate, served a generous portion of lasagna, filled with layers of meat and overflowing cheese. I realized she must have put a lot of effort into this preparation. After serving myself a small portion, she looked at me. "This looks delicious," I commented. "Thank you," she replied. "I love cooking, especially for someone I really care about." The lasagna lived up to its appearance. I savored every bite, even cleaned my plate with a slice of garlic bread. "You must have been really hungry," she commented. "I would never waste such delicious food," I said. "That was the best lasagna I've ever had." She smiled and came over to join me. She said, "I'm glad you liked it," then sat on my lap. "There's plenty more where that came from." She added, "Maybe one day I'll bring you dessert too." She lifted her shirt, revealing her well-shaped B-cup breasts. A familiar feeling stirred in my pants. She gave me a passionate, wet kiss, her tongue exploring my mouth. I need to go home and feed my cat, she said, but I'll be back tomorrow. I can't wait, I replied. She smiled as she got up. This is just a small part of what I've prepared for you, she said, I think. I have to rely on little George until your divorce is finalized. Little George? I asked. That's what I call my vibrator, she explained. I like to imagine you making love while I use it. I see, I said. Well, I hope Johnny doesn't contest the divorce. We shared a lingering kiss before Lisa left. Fortunately, Johnny didn't contest the divorce. She seemed to recognize the evidence against her and chose to end the marriage. She and Jim managed to keep their jobs, but it was a close call. She signed the papers and called to apologize, confirming it was a done deal. Fred told me the signed documents had been submitted, and in 30 days, I would be a free man. Was I happy, relieved to be rid of a cheating spouse? Yes, but a part of me felt empty. I had loved this woman devotedly for years, envisioning a retirement filled with children and grandchildren. Unfortunately, that dream was not meant to be. I also harbored frustration at not having taken any revenge on Jim. I had considered pursuing a claim for emotional alienation, but Fred thought it was a futile effort. The thought of physical retaliation crossed my mind, but I chose against it. Remembering the consequences and my unwillingness to end up in jail. Lisa would come to see me every night, bringing homemade dishes for us to share. She diligently marked my calendar, counting down the days until the divorce would be finalized. Her playful teasing continued. She even sent me several DVDs with self-taken and homemade videos, including moments with little George. The evenings often consisted of watching videos of Lisa using a dildo, accompanied by moans of my name and requests for intimacy. Each video ended with a blown kiss and the promise of a passionate encounter, giving me something to look forward to. At the end of the 30 days, I received the documents confirming the divorce. Surprisingly, Johnny made no communication. I half expected some irrational reaction from her, but she never came. Oh, well, on the day the divorce was finalized, Lisa didn't wait for me to call. Instead, she showed up at my door. I found it strange because I had already given her a key. I welcomed her in, and as I opened the door, I was prepared for a shocking surprise. She stood naked on the porch. I brought her in and shared a passionate kiss. Touching her soft skin, responding with the same passion. She quickly undressed me. Our acquaintance continued on the couch, in an unforgettable moment. She put my hard tool in her mouth. Afterward, she straddled me and said, "Do it, baby, I'm yours now. What do I have to complain about?" That image was enough to trigger my release inside her, her climax occurring simultaneously with mine. As she pressed down on me with increasing intensity. This far exceeded my expectations, she sighed. "George, never stop doing this to me. Please keep doing this with me, claim me as yours. Dear, please. I love you very much." "I love you too," I replied, enveloping her beneath me. We repeated several times on the couch, eventually moving to the bedroom. There, we shared intimate moments throughout the night. I never wanted to be apart from her. As we embraced, a profound sense of certainty settled in my heart. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this woman. She seemed to feel the same way. Turning, she faced me with a meaningful gaze. "I've always loved you, George," she expressed. "I would never subject you to the pain my foolish cousin has suffered. I want to spend the rest of my life with Reggie." "So does that mean you'll marry me?" I inquired. Her response was a joyful smile. She embraced me with her arms. "Yes, baby," she confirmed, "I will marry you and make sure you're the happiest man on earth." After our affirmation, we shared kisses and intimate moments, then fell asleep in each other's arms. A few days later, Johnny's father called, interrupting a peaceful moment between Lisa and me. We had just finished an intimate encounter and were lying in bed, enjoying a movie and a bowl of popcorn. "George, Joey is in the hospital," he revealed. I sat up, taken aback. "What happened?" I asked. "The guy she's with, his pager got serious," he conveyed. I had urged her to call the police, but she refused. Will she be okay? I pressed. In time, but I worry if she continues to be with him. Well, Lisa and I will go see her, I assured him. We? Yes, Lisa and I affirmed. Lisa is with you? He clarified. Yes, I am with you. He clarified. Yes, I am with you. I couldn't get through this without her. All right, he acknowledged, I understand. I will meet you at the hospital. After ending the call, I briefed Lisa on the situation, sharing the unsettling details I had learned. I learned about Jim Simpson, and both of us were angry at Johnny's behavior, but neither of us wanted to cause her physical harm. We quickly cleaned up, got dressed, and headed to the hospital. After speaking with a nurse, we were directed to Johnny's room. Her appearance was unsettling, with bruises on her face, one eye swollen shut, one arm in a cast, and an IV drip in the other arm. She groaned weakly as we entered the room. Although I wanted to comfort her and assure her that everything would be okay, I restrained myself. Mr. George Duvalier, she whispered, a tear rolling down her cheek. I raised my hand to signal her to stop. George is fine, I replied. What happened? Jim wanted to borrow my car for a date, and I refused. She explained. Gradually, he became angry and started hitting me, insulting me. I told him the car was mine and a large part of my salary went to the payments. I would never let him use it to impress others. He didn't stop until I threatened to call 911, then he ran away. I don't know where he is. I had trouble breathing and chest pain, so I called 911. They brought me here. Did you tell the police about this? Lisa asked. No, she admitted. I'm too scared. I thought if he went to jail, he would come after me when he got out. I shook my head in disbelief at the situation. Let me get this straight, I interjected. You left to be with the man who cheated on me, and now he's cheating on you. Is that right? She nodded tearfully. Yes, she said, I really messed up, didn't I? Yes, you did mess up, Lisa confirmed. But you don't deserve this treatment. He committed a crime. He needs to be held accountable. Johnny, I added, did you know he had a history of domestic violence? I knew he could be a bit harsh, but not to this extent. She commented. Lisa embraced her cousin, trying to offer comfort. Johnny noticed the diamond ring on Lisa's finger. Are you engaged? Johnny asked. Lisa smiled and confirmed. Yes, she replied. George and I are getting married. Johnny suddenly burst into tears, her emotions soaking Lisa's shirt. But you're still my cousin, and I still love you. Even though I think what you did to George was foolish. At that moment, Johnny's parents entered the room. They were very angry after learning the situation from Lisa and me. Well, Cliff told Johnny. We will stay with you. And move you back to the house after you are discharged. He will stay with us until you can get back on your feet. He gestured for me to step into the hallway. How much do you know about this Simpson guy? He asked. I shared what I had learned from Fred, and he nodded, taking mental notes. You said he works with Joey? Yes, I confirmed. He continued nodding. All right, I will handle Simpson, he declared. I won't go into detail with you. You don't need to know. What's going on between you and Lisa? Well, she helped me through the divorce. And now we're engaged, I explained. He smiled and nodded. I'm not surprised, he said. She's always had a soft spot for you. Congratulations. At least you're still part of the family. Thank you, I replied. Is there anything I can do to help with Simpson? He shook his head. No, he replied. I can handle this. Besides, you're about to get married. The last thing Lisa needs is her new husband going to jail. The less you know, the better. Cliff walked down the hallway, engaged in a conversation on his mobile phone. I returned to Johnny's room. Her mother cast a glance at us. I will stay with her tonight, she said. Cliff will arrange to retrieve her things from that man's apartment. Thank you for visiting, I replied, hugging her. Johnny looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm really sorry, she said. For everything. Can you forgive me? I paused briefly before answering. I believe I can, I said, realizing the other two women were observing. After all, we will still be family. Thank you, she said. I approached her, hugged her goodbye. Get well soon, I said gently, kissing her forehead. Take good care of him, Johnny instructed Lisa. Lisa smiled and nodded. I plan to, she promised. We left the hospital and went home. I knew nothing of Cliff's plans regarding Jim, but I had heard anecdotes about his military background. Knowing he had connections both high and low, I kept an eye on the local news. Even checked the obituaries. Finding nothing there. A week later, a small article appeared in the local newspaper about a man who was robbed and severely beaten outside a nearby bar. According to the report, the man was identified as Jim Simpson, ambushed by a group of attackers who broke 3 of his ribs, his jaw, knee, and one arm. The story also mentioned that his testicles were severely injured, which made me laugh. Cliff retrieved Joey's things from the apartment and relocated her to his home. Despite her parents' disapproval of what she had done to me, she was still their daughter, and their love for her remained. A few months later, Lisa and I were happily married. Since her parents had unfortunately passed away in a car accident a few years earlier, Cliff walked her down the aisle and warmly shook my hand. Joanne and her family attended the wedding, crying tears of joy as the pastor officially declared us husband and wife. Our honeymoon in Las Vegas was unforgettable, with Lisa expressing her love as often as possible. Upon our return, we arranged her belongings in our new home. Lisa decided to resign, explaining that I have a new job now. I inquired curiously what it was. She replied with a mischievous smile. To make you happy. And she succeeded. However, a few months later, she initiated the conversation every husband fears. When I came home from work, she said we needed to talk. Anxious about what she was about to reveal, I asked what was wrong. She revealed that we need to redecorate a bedroom. Confused, I asked why. She answered with a smile. Because you're going to be a dad. I was overjoyed, jumping up with excitement, kissing her. Are you happy? She asked. I am the happiest man in the world, I declared. Well then, take me upstairs and show me how happy you are. Big guy, she teased. So I did, again and again. Life, I mused, sometimes gives you lemons. But in return, you might get something sweeter. That's where the story ends. Leave a comment with your thoughts on the story. It would be interesting for us to read. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, so you won't miss new, just as interesting and exciting stories. Good luck.